Now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what Indians are all about.
I still say we Indian people are believers in the truth. This is the way of life that was given to your people. You're born an Indian, you're going to die an Indian. Indianness is a good life. You're facing an Indian this afternoon.
Good Saturday afternoon out there, everyone, and welcome to your number one source for Native American television news. It's Native News Today. Gerald Wofford along with Jason Salzman here, and just very ready to get into this week's episode. Got a lot of material to cover, and sure glad to have you back on set.
Well, thank you. I know that the past month I've kind of been hit and miss and everything with a lot of things happening. The Creek Memorial reenactment at Fort Mims, we'll be showing that later this month. That's the reason I was gone and everything, covering some of the historical events back into homeland, Alabama, and that way. So.
I bet that was nice to get back. Not too long we're there, and now you get to go back and retrace the steps a little bit.
Yeah, it was actually the 199th anniversary of the Battle of Fort Mims. It was a key Muskogee Creek victory in the Southland there. And as we said, we'll be bringing some of the highlights later in future shows. But yeah, it was an exciting trip nonetheless.
And get out of there just in time for Isaac to be nipping on your heels, right?
Yeah, we were trying to stay about a day ahead of that hurricane. Fortunately for us, of course, depending how you look at things, but it veered off towards New Orleans, but we were up north in Alabama, so yeah.
Well, our thoughts are certainly with all of those folks in the path of that storm. Hope everybody's staying safe, and that everything works out A-OK. So glad to have Gerald back safely here in studio. We got a great show lined up, Gerald. We went to the Diabetes Summit. We went to the Indian Country Business Summit. We went to the press conference of the signing of the Tobacco Compact between the state of Oklahoma and the Muskogee Creek Nation. And we'll visit with a very inspirational person, four-time Paralympic gold medalist, now competing in open water swimming, and he's a Creek citizen. So we have a great program lined up for this week's show, and football season's starting out there. The weather's starting to change a little bit, getting more rain. Things are looking up around here, so it's really been great, and we're excited to get the show started. We're going to take our first break. Come back. You're watching Native News Today.
Jahojefkat Paul Fixakodos. Iskanagat Tekobachi, Mikusapkajogon, man, Amikusapkajokodos. I'm able to preach in English and Muskogee, our language too, so there's not many that does that today. When I was growing up, that's all we had, Muskogee language, and that's all they preach. I could talk my language when I was small. When I grew up, I could understand what they were saying. We don't want to lose that, language, especially our songs, our native songs and the Muskogee hymns. We want to keep them.
Pumakasam gadat, ibufanga, nage, adigat, punhayadit omega, ajayididet omis.
Diosnok, that's true. Throughout the generations, our elders have taught us to preserve, share, and more importantly, protect the abundant natural resources we have here in Oklahoma. We are the original environmentalists and protector of these resources. The Muskogee Creek Nation believes tribal and state governments must work together to ensure future generations will have clean air and clean water as the ultimate legacy. What is good for Oklahoma tribal nations is good for all Oklahomans. Remember, tribes are truly the original Oklahomans.
And welcome back to Native News Today. Jason Salzman, Gerald Wofford. Jason, all the stories that we cover, very important, the state to native government relationships and how that really does affect Indian country, and certainly Muskogee Creek Nation in the spotlight this past week.
Well, when Chief George Tiger of the Muskogee Creek Nation took office in January, gave his inaugural speech, there were many things lined out. I know one thing on his mind that he really wanted to take care of was the absence of a tobacco compact between the state of Oklahoma and the Muskogee Creek Nation. Several things that it was affecting, numbers coming out, the smoke shops weren't doing as well, things like that, and the communities were really at a place where they didn't have the freedom to compete in an economic atmosphere with other places and things like that. So this allows that to happen. There is some give and take, as Chief explains, but the thing about it is this compact is now in place, and it's a great show of that administration and the governor's administration working together.
Thank you all for coming today. We're happy to be here today. The Chief Tiger and I, and the Attorney General, Scott Pruitt. We appreciate all the rest of the crowd that has joined us here today. We also are glad to have members of the Muskogee Creek Nation that have joined us. Thank you so much for coming today to this signing. My administration has worked very closely and will continue to work closely with all of Oklahoma's tribes on a variety of issues as we work to develop policies that will benefit all Oklahomans. We appreciate the unique and valuable contributions of the Creek Nation and all the tribes and what they add to Oklahoma's economy and certainly our culture. My number one priority as governor has been, as I've said many times, is to create jobs, to build a stronger Oklahoma, and to move Oklahoma forward. And Oklahoma tribes, and certainly the Creek Nation, have been a valuable partner as we work towards that goal. The Creek Nation employs more than 4,000 Oklahomans and provide good paying jobs through its various business ventures. The state of Oklahoma values its relationship with the Creek Nation, and it is important that we continue our relationship as allies working together to make Oklahoma stronger and a more prosperous state. We are happy to sign a compact today that will further strengthen our partnership. The compact, in addition to governing the payment of taxes on tobacco products sold at Creek Nation lands, also settles a lawsuit filed by the Attorney General's office. I appreciate the leadership of Chief Tiger and the officials of the Creek Nation for their spirit and cooperation during the negotiation of this compact. And I also want to thank our Attorney General, Scott Pruitt, and his team and his leadership and their efforts in securing a settlement agreement that allows this compact to be signed today. With the signing of this compact, the state of Oklahoma, the Creek Nation, are resolving past disputes, and they're strengthening the spirit of partnership between our two governments. I want to thank Chief Tiger once again for joining me today and signing this compact and approving this important document. Chief Tiger has been a member of the Creek Nation National Council for 14 years and was elected principal chief in November. He's a strong advocate for Indian causes and has served on countless advocacy boards and committees across the United States. As chief, he's an advocate for openness and transparency and is committed to working with tribal members to make the Creek Nation a more prosperous nation. So Chief, we are excited to have you here today and looking forward to signing this compact. And I'll ask you if you'd like to say a few words. Thank you.
Governor Fallon, members of the legislature is here, Attorney General Pruitt. I am honored and humbled to stand before you for this very historic day, a signing of a document that's been far too long in being signed. I want to acknowledge Governor Fallon for her ability to talk, sitting across the table from one another. And we believe, both of us, we believe that's the best process. And we're looking forward to more relationships, not only with the state of Oklahoma, but in communities that we share. After all, we're Oklahomans, and we know that what we do as tribal nations is good for the state of Oklahoma as well. I also want to acknowledge our National Council, our legislature, who met in emergency session last night to give me the authorization to sign this compact. And I want to thank a tribal member who's also a state representative, who's actually been one of the people behind the scenes, if you will, Jerry McPeak, who's been a big part of this. I want to also acknowledge Steve McCullen for being a part of the negotiations, and my in-house legal counsel, Jan Tiger, as well as our Attorney General, Roger Wiley. With that, I look forward to this signing of this document. I know that it means a lot to those of you that are from various communities throughout the Creek Nation who have a smoke shop. We can once again sell tobacco products and be competitive, and more importantly, provide jobs and providing services at the local level. With that, Governor, again, thank you very much, and I look forward to signing this document with you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, we'll move our table up here and provide our documents for the three of us to sign.
I believe it's long overdue. Number one, economic development certainly is a priority with any tribal government, and I believe this is a little bit part of it, and to allow for success on a local community level with sales of tobacco products allows for them to be able to do some things on in helping their own people as well as the tribe overall. Well, I think it's important. As many of our tribal members know, it's always been my philosophy that we sit across the table from each other. Litigation should always be the last thing that we consider, and I believe that this really relays a strong message to governmental entities here in Oklahoma and across the country as well. State and tribal governments can work together. It's not always going to be the perfect situations, but at least we're striving for perfection.
All I was a facilitator, helping folks do what they knew they wanted to do and what they could do already. I was happy to do that. I am ecstatic that we're getting it done. I think it's going to be really, really good for the Creek people. I think it's going to be good for the economy of Oklahoma, and it's good for the state. Anything that's good for the Creeks is good for the state too. But this agreement we have is a very workable agreement. It's one that's right. I think both sides tried to get what was right. I think we got that done. For one thing, it's going to put over $7 million into the economy of our boundary that we didn't have before, every year. So I'm not sure how it will be utilized or where it will come from. It's not coming to the nation. That's money that'll be going either back to the citizens or back to communities or back to folks who are doing things. So that's one way. That's just going back into our area and not coming to the tribe.
Well, we shift our subject to the area of health, and we know this is a very important subject in the Native American world, and every year different tribes holding different health summits to maybe key on different aspects of the overall health for Native Americans, and of course diabetes certainly being the top priority of that. Muskogee Creek Nation being no different, holding a specific health summit this week to tackle a problem.
Yeah, the summit is one thing that they have every year, as you mentioned, and it's always a big event. There's a lot of different programs that pitch in to make it so great. That's why there's always a little bit of everything when you go to the summit. You can find all different kinds of information. You can see all kinds of different Muskogee Creek Nation departments represented, and all kinds of stories told as it relates to the health field, and specifically diabetes, getting active. You know, for instance, as we showed last week, the Altmauge to Altmauge bicycle tour being a heavy influence at this year's summit. But we talked with Johnny Braswell, the head of the diabetes program, about the summit, a little bit of things about diabetes and where they're heading. The Muskogee Creek Nation Division of Health hosted its 6th annual Citizens Diabetes Awareness Summit this week in Okemah. Citizens attending the event learned about various lifestyle choices to help them manage and prevent diabetes for themselves and those in their communities. Muskogee Creek Nation Diabetes Program Manager Johnny Braswell talked about the great turnout and response for this year's event.
It's the largest turnout that we've had, and all because there was large community involvement in the planning. I went to one planning meeting because it was all done by the community and about 5 or 6 of my staff. So it was just wonderful that the community, there was some leadership, there were some National Council people, but just the leaders and community members just said, we're going to do this well, and so it turned out like that. It was really good.
Braswell talked about all the services offered at the event and how there's a little something for everybody.
For all kinds of levels of ability, like we have the chair exercises, and we have done Tai Chi, which is something different to do. This year we've done Zumba, which is kind of popular in the community at large, and people had a lot of fun. Well, not a room for everybody that wanted to do it. They had to take turns, but it was, we try to give them all kinds of examples of options and let them experience it.
For the Division of Health, the Diabetes Summit has been a real boost for what they're trying to accomplish, and it looks to get better and better with each year.
I think more and more people are getting interested in it every year, and I think that it's time for the communities to see themselves as the ones that are going to make the difference in turning the tide for diabetes. And it's got to be at the prevention level. I mean, we have about $3 million in our budget for the diabetes program, and we spend about 90% of it on clinical, clinical care and tertiary care, where we're helping people with their prostheses and for eye care. And I mean, a lot is spent on diabetes, and most of it is spent on the clinical, after diagnosis and the clinical aspects of it. And just a little bit on prevention, but I think we've got to start targeting that. And I think that's what the community is getting ready to do. They have to see themselves as being able to do that, though, and that's why I think, the theme of the summit is to know and to be strong. And so I think we learn to get strength from knowing, and I think that's what's happening, hopefully.
Well, Jason, it seemed like this past week, Native Country was really busy in Oklahoma. I mean, so many different subjects being covered. Already we've tackled, the health, the tobacco issues, the government issues and everything. And also, too, it's very important, the area of business and how it affects Indian Country.
Yeah, Gerald, it's one of those things where we do have those certain weeks where it seems like there's a lot of things going on, and a really, really busy week in Indian Country. The Indian Country Business Summit, and its 6th year as well, at the Embassy Suites there in Norman, Oklahoma. Got to go to the old stomping grounds, and it's always nice to go back to a place you spent some great years at. But there at the Embassy Suites in Norman, they had the Indian Country Business Summit. The AICCO, American Indian Chamber of Commerce of Oklahoma, puts this on. It's a really great event. It's really a networking bonanza. And they have a luncheon there and great speakers. So they had somebody from the Obama administration, and then they had Principal Chief George Tiger from Creek Nation. So glad to be there at the Indian Country Business Summit.
AICCO, in partnership with TGI and OBAN, PTAX, and government contracting agencies here in Oklahoma, we are having our 6th annual Indian Country Business Summit. And what that entails and what that means for Indian small business is we have state, federal, local agencies, organizations that come together every year along with small businesses to network, learn more about government contracting, GSA, 8A contracts that are out there for small businesses to capture with the state, federal, and local government. I am the president of the American Indian Chamber of Commerce here in Oklahoma, and for 2012, and we also have 5 chapters around the state, so we network all over the state all year long to let everyone know about the event. We have a trade show. We also have 2 keynote luncheon speakers this year, Chris James with the SBA Native American Affairs Office under the Obama administration, as well as Principal Chief George Tiger of the Creek Nation, which he will be here today at noon to just address the tribal community about what's going on with the tribe, how to do business with the Creek Nation, and just overall network with the small business owners. We were really trying to get, like I said, make contacts, help people make contacts for large contracts, or just contacts for their business in general. But that's why we're here. And like I said, we've had it in different locations around the state before, but I think this year we will have it here, obviously this year. Next year, have it here as well. So it's going to be a wonderful networking opportunity for people next year. We don't have the date set for next year yet, but we should have that in the next couple of weeks. So I would urge everyone to go to the website, look and see about information for next year's event. We are the largest American Indian Chamber here in Oklahoma, well, the only American Indian Chamber here in Oklahoma that I'm aware of. We've been around 20 years. We got started by a grant from a couple of ladies that wrote a grant to form a nonprofit. We're a 501c3, and we basically are just a networking group. We have 5 chapters all over the state, and they have luncheons at various times of the month. If you want more information, just go to www.aiccok.org, and it'll have all of the state board representatives on the site, as well as our luncheon time dates and who's speaking at those luncheons. And we're just we're very well connected. We're a good resource for Native small business to be able to, like I said, just make key contacts. We're very well connected. We know a lot of people.
Chickasaw Nation Industries is a tribal contractor. We have 12 subsidiaries, and since we do so much work with the federal government, many of our customers are here. So the business matchmaking has been an incredible opportunity for us to get in front of some of the small business officers, even some of the contracting officers. The SBA folks do such a great job, and overall, just staying connected in Indian Country, kind of sharing losses as well as sharing, things that have worked for each of our tribal groups. I attended this conference last year, and one of the first things I noticed when I walked in the door was just the growth of the conference and the number of industries and companies that are participating outside of just, the gaming tribal, setups. And so I've definitely seen growth and improvement.
Well, Jason, with all these great stories that we cover today, it's always good to cover a positive story as well, as far as an individual overcoming obstacles in their life and reaching some goals. Always great stories to cover like that.
Yeah, Gerald, and a lot of people out there, they're going to know this man that we're going to spotlight next. But Creek citizen Kim Brownfield has become, from an early in life, getting a bad hand dealt to him and stricken with polio. He became a Paralympic gold medalist 4 times, broke numerous world records in powerlifting. Now he's shifting that area and focus and that determination that he used so much in everything else to competitive swimming. He's doing open water swims. He's got some swims coming up here in the next few months, in one in Oklahoma City. So he's very excited about this next chapter in his life. And really, you don't want to bet against Kim Brownfield. Every time he's been told, hey, I don't know about that, and break through that wall. So it's great going out and visiting with Kim. We're 100% behind him. From an early age, life hasn't been easy for Kim Brownfield.
Kim was vaccinated with the polio vaccine, and he had a fever, and it counteracted, and he caught polio.
Instead of letting the disease stop him, he used it as motivation to live his life to the fullest and get the most out of himself.
He's always been a trier. He could have gone to a wheelchair and been happy to draw Social Security the rest of his life, but can't in his vocabulary, and everything he's wanted to do, he's accomplished. And he's set out to do something, you can bet he's going to do it.
That determination led to a decorated powerlifting career, one that saw him nab 4 gold medals in the Paralympic Games and break numerous world records. Now, he's turned his attention to a new challenge to overcome: competitive swimming. Brownfield talked about what led him into the water.
I always thought, and this is that whether I'd have went into powerlifting, golf, any sport, that I could have worked hard enough and been decent at any of it. I chose powerlifting. I love the sport. It was a very hard sport, hard on my body, and my body kind of said enough of the powerlifting. But I felt like I could have competed in anything in the Paralympics that I wanted to. I really did. I always felt like it. So I wanted to show outside the box, because this is all a lot of cardio, a lot of endurance, more of a triathlon type deal. I mean, it's not the 3 events, but it's more of it's like a total opposite of an anaerobic exercise where you show just an explosion, very quick explosion, and then the sport's over. This is over a long haul. Even if you swim 50 meters, it's still, it's still a distance. So I just kind of wanted to show that I could do both, and that I was 47 years old when I thought of doing this, and I thought, well, it's not I can sit in a rocking chair, but being in your 40s anymore is really not a death sentence. There's people that can, that go to the Olympic trials, that go to the Olympic Games in their 40s. So that's why I did it. I felt like I still had the athletic ability to do it. The minute that my health fails or something, I won't do it anymore. But while my health holds, I'm going to keep going. You got to do something when you start, mainly in your 40s. If it's getting up and walking, motivating yourself instead of going and checking the mail every day by vehicle, getting up and walking to your mailbox, making yourself do that. And I was sitting in the chair after powerlifting and just doing nothing. I mean, for about a year and a half, 2 years, and I thought, man, I'm just rotting away here. I mean, my health wasn't the same. It was an exertion to get up to go to the kitchen to get a drink. So I said, well, this isn't going to happen. I'm not going to allow this to happen. And what's amazing is the young people in their teens and 20s that's happening to nowadays for lack of exercise or lack of doing something. I mean, it's just getting to be the biggest problem now for anybody that's not in their 40s. So you've got to stay some type of activity, and that's why I went back into this also, is, I want to live an active, healthy lifestyle.
The future holds even bigger goals for Brownfield.
If all holds well out between the government officials and everything works out, that's my plan at age 50, is to, as far as I know, and I've not researched it totally, but I've researched it quite a bit, that I don't know of anybody with this severe of a disability at age 50 that swam the English Channel. And that's my That's the ultimate goal of mine. That and a Paralympic medal. If I ever have to choose between the two, or an Olympic, even if it's getting to swim open, it's going to be a hard choice. But I plan on doing both. There's no reason why I can't. So we got some things to work out with possibly the English government or just allowing it to happen. But I don't see a problem with it, and that's going to be a serious reality that I'm training for. And I wouldn't be training for it if I didn't think I could do it. The experience I've had with the swimming so far is that the very first thing I did was the one in Jinx. I did an event in Jinx and didn't know what I was doing, but it motivated me to work hard. And the very first open water experience was outstanding. I mean, it's a pure event where you're out there in the middle of a lake and there's nobody else, nobody with you. It's a good, peaceful thing, but yet you've got to stay really focused and really narrow down to what you're doing, because no matter what, when you're swimming, there's a certain amount of survival skills that kicks in. So the very first one I did, I was happy with it. Just I survived it, and I had a decent time. You know, that was my goal, was surviving. But I was very happy with my time, and 8 months training, I'll take that time. I really will, and I plan on doing much more with the good Lord willing, and I stay healthy.
One thing is for sure: when the odds are against him, is when the best comes out in Kim Brownfield.
There's nobody like him. Nobody like him. He's a special man.
Well, that's going to wind down another program here of Native News Today. As always, we say we appreciate you joining us this afternoon on this first Saturday of September.
That's right.
And so many great things happening out there. And as we mentioned earlier, Jason, in the program, the Fort Mims trip, we'll have more details in future shows about that trip. The battle reenactment, a very key Muskogee Creek victory at that time. And personally, I want to say thank you to the people down at Power Ready.
Oh,
great people
yes.
down there, Jeanette overall, and all the great people down there. Also attending this Fort Mims battle reenactment there and everything. Great people to visit with and everything. So there was Muskogee Creek representation down there, which is always good.
Great Creek-owned business, and certainly enjoyed having them on the program too. Want to take the time too to thank everybody that made this such a great show. Definitely Kim Brownfield and his family members, his wife Mary and his cousin there,
Keep
Billy.
going for the gold.
Yes, exactly. Part of the his entourage that he had there with him. It was great to visit with them. Also, getting to see some history too as well. Seeing the Tobacco Compact signed right there with my own two eyes. It was very good. I'll always be able to say, I was there when that happened, and so it was a wonderful thing, and we were glad to be able to show it on the show. And also want to say a big happy birthday, if you don't mind, to my wife Chelsea. She's
there you go.
She's absolutely 25 years old. So
happy birthday,
happy
Chelsea.
Birthday, Chelsea, and
special birthday
there's
wishes.
Too many more.
Yes.
But no, check us out on the internet if you can't catch us on the TV, and also Native News Today on Twitter and Facebook. And
In the meantime, hey, you all take care. God bless.
And we'll see you soon.